software developer. I've been doing that for about 4 years now. It's been a great experience. I am a Learn alum, and it's definitely, I attribute my experience at Learn Academy with having become a software engineer. Okay, so I do want to encourage everyone to feel free to ask questions at any point. If I'm going too fast or if I've mumbled across some string of words and you need that to be clarified, feel free to unmute yourself and ask me to clarify. Okay, so has everyone downloaded and opened up VS Code yet? Yeah, I'll get on that. All right, yes. Is anybody experiencing any difficulties with getting the editor open? Sweet. Okay, so something that I'd like to clarify with a VS Code is it's a code editor or a text editor, and you've likely used a text editor prior to today, something like Word or Word document. The difference between what Visual Studio or VS Code or Visual Studio Code offers that Word does not is it actually has features that supports you being able to write code. Now, in terms of what writing code is, it's literally you're writing likely English words with some kind of syntax, and this is, you're writing it into a document that is going to be interpreted or processed by a computer or in a browser. And so today's goals will be building your website. Now this website, it's a static website, and the goal for it is so that it is also mobile friendly. Another word that we use to describe mobile friendly is responsive. And basically that just means you build it once and it has a way of adapting the way it gets rendered on different devices. So something like my iPhone SE tiny screen is definitely going to have a different understanding of how to process the information that we provide it, the code, than how a browser on a desktop or a laptop computer would do that. Any questions so far? No, all good? Cool. Okay, so in order to get started, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Minimize this. Okay, close that up. Okay, so first things first, because we will be creating documents, we want to hold that those documents in a directory or folder. For simplicity's sake, we'll go ahead and create one on your desktop so that we have quick access to it. And you could name it whichever you want. I'll go ahead and do first website. I'll see that I already have one open from previous. But the goal of this website, it could be anything you want. I have a strange fascination about berries because I just recently discovered that some berries aren't actually berries. So strawberries are not berries, but bananas are berries. So I'm going to be building a website about that today. But you could choose to build a website about yourself or whatever topic interests you. We'll also be using just placeholder text. So don't worry about the content that you're going to need to provide just yet. Okay, so, all right. Everybody good on the directory? Yeah, we've all created it. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and go to VS Code, open that up. And we're going to open this folder. You you likely have this option here, open folder, or you could go to file and you could do the same thing, open, and then navigate to your folder. So I'm going to go ahead and open. Okay. So first things first, we need to create an HTML document. Now, HTML is an acronym, but you want to think of HTML as the backbone or the structure of a web page. In order to do that, we'll go ahead and click this icon here for new file. I'm going to go ahead and minimize that. Okay, so we'll go to new file. And it's pretty standard practice that when you create your first page for a website, you name it index. This is sort of just a standard practice. You can actually name it whatever you want. We'll go ahead and name it. And by naming it, we'll save this file. Go to save. Index. And we want to make sure that we provide an extension to this file. Any questions so far? Okay, so we'll go ahead and save. Okay, so I might have mentioned that HTML is hypertext markup language if I haven't already. And hypertext, I actually just realized that I had used HTML but quite didn't understand what hypertext actually meant. And so I had to actually Google that last night. And hypertext, as it turns out, is just text that is displayed on a computer screen, and it could be linked to other text. Okay. So in creating the page, there's going to be some code that is required just to get the minimal functionality of a website going. How we do that is VS Code has this nifty feature where if you type HTML into the HTML document, it actually gives you some options here. And we're going to click HTML5. And the reason why we're going to select HTML5 is because HTML5 is the latest version of HTML. If you do HTML by itself, it actually won't be a big issue. You just won't have as many features that HTML has, or the latest version that it has. So let's go ahead and click that. And voila. So is everybody here? They see all this markup here? Awesome. Okay, so I want to take a little moment to just look at what we have here. You have some caret notation, which are these less than and greater than symbols. This is a part of the HTML syntax. And usually these denote some kind of element or section in HTML. This doc type HTML here is, excuse me, just another thing that the browser needs in the document to be able to understand this is an HTML document. Document type, right? Okay, the next element that we have here is HTML. And it's a little bit redundant, but what really this means is the HTML document is officially starting. Everything in here needs to be processed as HTML. You'll also see lang equals and then quotations en. What this section right here is called an attribute. And So these attributes describe information that can be used to process these elements in a particular way. So what we're noting here is we are going to be using the English language to present data on our website. The next element here is head. And within this element, you'll note that there's quite a few other elements that are nested within it. And when I say nested, there's this opening element and a closing element. So most of these have to be wrapped. Things that are displayed in the head element are actually, or code that is provided in the head element are things that actually don't get displayed on the page itself. It's information about the website. And that sort of makes sense because when we have our next element, we have meta and then charset, an attribute, UTF-8. So that's a lot of stuff that we don't actually have to edit. But this here is indicating what kind of character set that we're using, which is our standard like ABC, uppercase, lowercase numbers, and all the characters that you see on your regular keyboard. More information. This is Viewport about the website. Viewport here literally just means you could use it on any device and it will be displayed according to your device. So title element here, and we have document. This title is actually the title that you see represented on the tab on the page. So if you're here, we could go ahead and save because we've added text at this point. So Control Save or Command S or Control S if you're on Windows, or you could go to the menu. Okay, so now for this, we could actually at this point be able to view this HTML document in our browser. One way to do this is you could right-click or double-click, and you could reveal in your folder. So that should bring up the folder in which you created the document in. And you could double-click this to open it. And it will open in your default browser. So for me, it's Chrome. And you'll notice you really don't see anything. But what you might want to pay attention to is how it says document here. And that is the title that we've indicated in our HTML document. Any questions so far? Okay. So now navigating back to VS Code, we could change the title of it. So in this case, again, queries page. And we could Control Save, Control S, go back to our page. And what you could do is hit refresh. So you could hit the reload button or Control R or Command R, and you'll see that the title has changed here. Okay.
Hey, Mina, real quick, we have one individual who's just a tad behind. Could you just go back to your code real quick and she could catch up with us for a moment?
Absolutely.
And I'm going to go ahead. I forgot to enable to unmute ourselves. So if you need to unmute yourself, please go ahead and do that as we need to catch up. And Linda, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. Let's go ahead and get you caught up real quick as we let individuals do that too. So looks like she doesn't have the file or folder set up. Could you just go back to the file structure real quick? I believe you had the folder on your homepage.
Here in this directory, we have a document. Is the file not created yet?
So Linda, yeah, so you need to place a folder on your desktop named first website. And you could name that really whatever you would like, but you just need a folder on your desktop, and then you need to go to your VS Code and create a new file named index.html. And looks like Franco, you're a little behind as well. So I think this is a good time for all of us just to get caught up real quick. I have a few people just messaging privately. Please just go ahead and use the chat for everyone. We have a couple instructors here as well. So myself and Sarah here are here too. So we'll get everybody caught up to speed real quick before we move on. So just step one real quick is to just create that folder on your desktop. And then we're gonna open up VS Code and create the new file.
Oh, hi. I was able to unmute now. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can. Hi, Linda. So yeah, please go ahead and let us know where you're at.
So I created a folder on my desktop by just right clicking. Is
Yep.
that okay? And then I went over to the editor and I just went file, new file, and then put index.html. But mine doesn't sit on the left-hand side. I don't have a menu like Explore, Open Editors first. I don't have any of that on the left-hand side.
Might be able to, let's see, open.
Appearance.
Okay, so you would go to view, the view menu, appearance, and I believe you would need to make sure that this sidebar is checked.
Perfect. Okay. And then then I have open editors, and then I have an untitled workspace.
Okay.
And then underneath that I have first website.
Oh, okay.
Did I mess up?
Have first website. Can you see your file that you created in there?
No. Well, I don't know. I see it on the right. You want me to show you? You want me to share my screen?
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm sorry to hold everyone up.
No, it's okay. This is the most important step.
Yeah.
So once,
Yeah.
So anybody who's having trouble just getting this initial part set up, let's just focus on that real quick, just because this is going to set us up for the rest of the workshop.
Okay. So can you see my screen?
Okay. Yes. And then.
So I see the file when I'm like that, but it's not underneath it.
Oh, I see. Okay. So let's, how about let's go to File, because what we don't want to quite be in is in the workspace just yet. Actually, click away from that for a moment. Can you click on Untitled Workspace? Right click on it, perhaps, or, okay. Let's try this. Let's go to File, Open Folder, first website, select folder. And yeah, we'll go ahead and save. I think there's not much. That is, you don't have to save that.
Awesome.
It has more to do with the editor. Okay. And here it's asking where would you like to store it. So you have your first website folder open. and you have index HTML. Perfect. So let's click save.
Ah, now it looks like yours.
Okay, cool. And then let's double click this HTML. Perfect.
Am I good?
I'm actually at the learn space right now, and the light's like.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. And so it looks like index HTML. Okay. So go ahead and click on that first line there.
Right here?
We'll go ahead and remove that.
Delete.
Delete. And go ahead and start typing HTML. Perfect. And then we'll select the second one, second option with the HTML5. Awesome.
Okay.
And we should have what you need here to get going. So I think where we left off last was editing the title. Whatever your website you'd like, or whatever topic you'd like.
Where's the title at?
Line 6.
Ah, and I just put it in here where it says document.
Yeah, that could be
I want to make a website for myself.
perfect.
Is it okay to have a space?
That is perfectly fine. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, this is going to be something that is displayed on the tab to represent the title for the website. So, and then file, you want to save the file?
Is there a shortcut for that?
You could do Command S or Control S.
It doesn't just save automatically. You have to make sure you save.
There may be a way to have it save automatically, but it's always a good habit to save as you work.
Okay. Okay, am I up to speed?
Yes, and then we'll go ahead and have you view your page. So you could right click on the left sidebar, HTML. Yep, index.html.
Right click here.
Yep, and then reveal in File Explorer. And then double click that file. Cool. And so you should see Linda Paulson at the top on the tab. And this is where we're at in terms of changing the title on their website.
It's a great website. It's minimalist. Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much. I'll stop. I really appreciate that. Sorry, guys, to hold you up.
No, you're perfect. This is exactly what we wanted to do, so no worries.
I'll start my video. I'll stop sharing.
My issue was that clicking HTML5 only filled one line, but it worked in full after retrying a few times. Perfect. Yeah. Sometimes the feature for it's called the emit feature. Sometimes it could be a little tricky to get it to do exactly what you want. So no problem. Any other questions? I'm gonna go ahead and go back to sharing my screen here. Whoa. Okay. Okay, so we're here now. Okay, so head, again, is all the information about the website. It's actually not the content on the website. The content that you'll be creating is actually in this body tag. And so, again, with all of these elements, these are descriptions of the things that you'd like to see on the web page. One thing that we could do is create a heading. And we do that by typing H1. And when you do a less than or the closing caret, this editor knows to provide the closing tag to complete the syntax. And we could do something like hello world. That's pretty standard. Again, because we've edited this document, we are going to Control Save, Command Save, and let's go ahead and view this here. And you won't be able to see anything unless you refresh. So we should be able to see a heading here. Any questions so far? We're good. Actually, there we go. Okay. Actually, I think this is a good time to be able to share with you some resource. So H1 and HTML, these are all elements and tags that are pretty standard to building a website. So if you've been doing it for a while, you'll probably memorize this, but I feel like this page here, W3 Schools, very popular. It's a free resource online. I'm going to go ahead and share that. Whoops. So that you could have reference later on. That is so weird. What is happening here? Where did it go? Where did my, I'm brain farting with Zoom. Where is I'm looking for the chat window. It has seemed to disappear on me.
You have to click the, oh, there you go.
Cool, okay. All right, so here we go. Feel free to look at this resource at any time to understand what other elements that you could use in creating your website. Another thing that we'd like to do to add more content is provide a paragraph content or paragraph text. And so the element for that is P. And here we could just say a page about areas or whatever you like. Going back to your browser, going back to your index HTML and refresh. Again, you want to make sure that you have saved your document before you refresh. Okay, so this is pretty standard stuff here. Before I move on to the next section of this, do we have any questions at this point? No? We're all good? Okay. So what we have here is pretty bland looking, right? We know that when we visit websites, we like color, we like a lot of sense of style. This is where CSS comes into play. CSS is cascading style sheets. And generally, this is the dressing on the structure of it. So we could go ahead and in order to add styling, we have to add a styling tag. And we want to make sure that we are doing this inside of the head because cascading style sheets has its own form of syntax that needs to be interpreted in a certain way. And in order to be able to tell the browser that it needs to be interpreted in a certain way, we need to denote it with this style element. Okay. So, okay, so at this point, let's say for instance, I would like to style this H1 element. I want to make it red. In CSS syntax, what you need to be able to do is select that element. And so here I am providing a selector. I'm opening up brackets, curly brackets, and I will indicate the color of it. And I think I said red, so I'll go ahead and type red. Control save. And when we go back to our browser, we refresh, voila, it has color now. Anybody have any questions here so far? Okay, so we could go ahead and play around with that by also styling the paragraph.
Go ahead, Linda.
Sure. Oh, I think you might be muted, Linda.
Yeah, you can unmute yourself though. Here, I'll unmute you for you.
Oh, there we go. It works now. I was just going to ask, when do you know when to hit a return and when not to hit a return? And then the second question was, whenever I do the less than sign, I forget to do the shift key, so I always get the comma instead of that. Should I be in should I be in caps locks, or is there any shortcuts, I guess?
Oh, okay. So for the first one, hitting the return, this is actually sort of a matter of style and maybe standard practice, but in HTML, generally anytime you have nested content or nested code, you want to start on the next line. It just makes it easier to read. Likewise, within CSS, it's really about a preference of like what is easier to read. So you'll see for CSS syntax, it's after a curly bracket, we have a new line, and when we've provided that attribute, we go to the new line to next line to close it. You will see something like this as well, and this is perfectly fine. This will not affect the way the computer decides to read it or the browser. What you do want to do with syntax in CSS is make sure that after you provide an attribute, this is denoting the attribute and this is denoting the value for that attribute. You want to finish that line with a semicolon. The other question that you had was when you are dealing with your carrots. Okay, so with the carrots, I would suggest that while you're typing, to not use caps lock. You would generally type a shift less than or greater than, to do that. There's no, I'm not familiar with any shorthand for this. There are features in this VS Code editor that you could probably download later on that could do that for you. But for now, without having to overload our editor with a lot of packages, we'll just stick with hard coding it that way.
Okay, thank you.
Great questions.
Any other questions before we move on? Nope.
All right, so for styling the paragraph, I'll go ahead and select a different color. Very rudimentary colors here. Oops. I didn't mention this, but also after the colon, we want to put a space before we provide the value to it. That's also a pretty standard practice. It's more for legibility. Again, the computer or the browser knows to interpret it just fine without those spaces. All right, so here, and let's say, for instance, I want the font size to be 20 pixels. Okay, so pixels, that's just a unit of measure of distance or size. Pixels is a pretty standard unit of measure, but there are other units out there that we could use. We'll stick with pixels for now. So we do a Control Save. We go to the browser, Command R or Control R to refresh to see our changes here. All right. Any questions? Looks like we're good. Okay. So a thing about styling is our HTML document primarily serves the purpose of the structure of the page. It's describing generally the text, generally describing the text and the structure. It's common practice to actually provide a separate file, a CSS file, to store all of your styles. This is more of a concern of separation. You want to think of it as the reason why people don't store empty plates in a refrigerator. It's, the refrigerator is used to store food. Cupboards are used to store plates and cups. So here we want to create a new page, a new file, and we'll call it styles. The extension here will be CSS. We'll push enter. And what we'll do here is we are going to take all of this, highlighting it. You could copy or cut. I'm going to go ahead and cut because I essentially want to remove this from this document, and then paste. So Control P or Command P. Sorry, V, not P, because that's going to make things print. And here you'll notice that we're not providing the actual style element because this is not an HTML document. This is a CSS document. So here it expects to only be able to see CSS syntax. And because we're no longer providing the styles here, we're going to go ahead and remove these style elements. And also Control Save here. Okay, so what we've done is we've sort of migrated our styles to a different page. And actually at this point you could refresh and you'll see, hey, all the styles went away. It's because the HTML document doesn't have a way of referencing these styles. It doesn't know about the other document that we created just yet. In order to be able to do that, we have to provide a link reference to that document. We do that by creating a caret and providing starting with the caret, providing a link. Okay. And here, let's see. This attribute needs to be provided. REL is short for relationship, and we're literally indicating that the relationship for this link is the style sheet. We haven't exactly told it where the file is located yet, and we do that by writing href. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and close caret. So href here, it is an attribute that takes the location of the file. So this is the nice thing about the editor. It knows that, hey, you're trying to create a link to a different file that we know exists. So we'll go ahead and select styles.css, Control Save, or Command Save. And we'll go ahead and review that on the page. And there it is. Your styles are applied again, and they are being referenced from the CSS document now. Okay. Does anybody have any questions at this point? Okay. I think at this point, it would be a good time to take a 5-minute break. Oh, let's see.
Yeah, anybody who has a question, please speak up.
Yeah.
You can unmute yourself. At least you should be able to. No? Maybe now.
Okay, now it worked. Mine is not, it's not recognizing the changes from the link to the other page.
Oh, sure. Could you go ahead and share your screen? I'll go ahead and stop my screen. Any luck with sharing your screen, Jessica?
I'm trying. I have to allow it to. Okay. Don't know. Can you see it now?
Yes. Okay. So let's see here. Style. Oh, okay. So can you navigate to your style CSS document? So this is actually a pretty interesting thing. The white circle at the top of the tag indicates that the file hasn't been saved yet. And that was totally bad. I forgot to mention that you also need to save the changes in this document as well in order to see it reflected. So I think at this point, once you've saved it, you could go ahead and hit refresh, and there it is.
There it is. Thank you.
Yeah, that was great because going forward, you will, if you make any style changes in your CSS document and also in your HTML document, you're going to need to make sure that both of those pages or documents are saved before seeing any of that being reflected in the browser.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So I think at this point we'll do a 5-minute break. Okay. All right. So I will see you all in about 5 minutes. I'll be lingering here, but feel free to stand up, stretch. That's a very important thing to do when you're programming. Taking breaks is also very important.
Cool. If anybody is behind, let's get you guys caught up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take that help.
Cool. Let's do it.
Let me share my screen. So I think I missed a step with creating this. First of all, can you see my screen? I tried to create the styles page, but it doesn't look like yours. So I must have done something wrong.
Sure thing. It does look a little bit different. So let's, can you double click on styles? Okay. It looks like it was not saved with the correct extension. So go ahead and recreate the file. We'll delete this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just go file, new file.
Yes. Okay. Styles and then .css. Perfect.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And then get rid of that one. Delete.
That one. Perfect. Yeah, that looks good.
Okay, so then I couldn't do the rest of what you're talking about. So now what do I do?
So we highlight, yep. Actually, we will not be including the style element. It's starting on line 7. Yep. Okay.
Okay.
And you could cut or copy.
Like that?
And then go into styles and paste.
Like that?
Perfect. And then save. And also in your HTML document, we'll remove the style elements or the tags.
The tags, these things?
Yep.
Okay.
And save. And at this point, we should be able to look at the browser to see if it's being referenced correctly. Okay. Oh, interesting. Oh, that's because we didn't create the link. Haha. Okay, so this is where we create the link element. So we start with the caret, the less than, LINK, space. And we indicate the relationship. So REL equals. Perfect. Quotation. Sorry, double quotes. There you go. Style sheet.
Oops.
Perfect. And then after that, another space. And we indicate href. Perfect. Equals quotation. And then we type in the file name styles. Dot.
Got it. CSS. Like
Awesome.
that. And then return.
Not just yet. So we'll cursor to the right and we'll close the caret.
Close the caret like that.
And we want to make sure that it's outside of the quotations, so to the right of it. Yep, right there. Awesome. And then we'll save. And when we go back to the browser, we should be able to see the changes or the styles applied.
Oh, okay.
Perfect.
So it's best practice to keep all your styles in a separate style sheet.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. We
And
want
then
to.
what do all the colors mean here? The blue versus orange, and or is that?
Yeah. That's sort of the default theme, the color scheme on the editor. It knows to recognize like all the HTML elements and the attributes a certain way. I think you could actually change the color theme, but by default, it does it just to help you recognize the different parts. It makes it easier to read.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Thank you so much. Stop my sharing.
And then we actually had a couple questions from Franco here, Mina. One of them was actually about the text editor. And I was curious too, did they pick up small errors in your code as well? So like if you miss something like a semicolon or a caret or anything like that, does that give you an alert?
Sometimes. I think by default with what we're working with right now. So if you haven't indicated the extension of the file yet, so if you created a document and you didn't label it with a .html, it actually doesn't quite know what kind of document you're creating. So it doesn't do the readily checking. But sometimes it will. There are, again, packages that you could install into your editor that will be able to check for those. Things like missing semicolons or carets and stuff like that. For now, we're just hard coding. But yeah, very good question.
And then he had one more in the chat, if you want to take a look.
I did want to add, if you are interested in something like that, I would Google something like linters. And you could do HTML linters, CSS linters, and you could probably do something like HTML, CSS linter VS Code, and you'll be able to find a package that you could install right into your editor that does those automatic corrections. Okay, so the other one, I thought CSS and HTML are different languages. And so can one file have both CSS and HTML, and Google Chrome still knows how to read that? Yeah, this is a very good question. So CSS is a separate syntax from HTML. They are special in that HTML actually has a way of exposing, like telling the browser, hey, this section you need to read as CSS, and this section you need to read as HTML. And I'll go ahead and share my screen just so I have something visual to point to. So prior to when we had something like this, this is actually the indicator of saying whatever is happening between the opening and closing of the style tag needs to be interpreted as CSS. It's a little bit like weird because here we're saying, oh, okay, HTML, everything in here needs to be interpreted as HTML. So this style element is essentially a part of HTML. So it's saying here, anytime you get to this, when you get to styles, render it as CSS. There is actually another way of reading a different language, and you might have heard of JavaScript. And in here, you could actually provide your JavaScript in here. And again, HTML will, like the browser, knows that it's interpreting HTML. And then when it gets to here, it says, hey, actually interpret this stuff as JavaScript. So it is very possible to be able to have your HTML document have both CSS, HTML, JavaScript. Very good question. But again, I do also want to stress that the reason why we're separating the two is because it's actually often a lot easier to read when you know all of your styles are in one document and all of your structural concerns are in your HTML document. Very good question. If anybody's concerned about or curious as to what the learn space looks like, well, I'm here isolated by myself. I'm actually out here because construction was a little too loud at my place. So, all right. I think we're good on the break now.
Yep, looks like everybody's back.
Sweet. Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and remove this. So I want to dig a little deeper into CSS because I feel like some understanding there will be more important as we migrate this stuff here. Okay. So looking here at our CSS, what we've done is we've indicated a selector or a way of telling them to identify certain elements that we want to change. But let's say, for instance, we have 2 paragraphs. And we're just going to go ahead and do second paragraph for now. Control save. Go to the browser. I see that the styles that I've indicated for any element P is going to be applied. Okay. So again, all of these are getting selected with, and these styles will be applied to it. Let's say I actually maybe don't want that second paragraph to have the same styles. Or let's say actually, I want all my paragraphs to be this blue-violet, but I want the second paragraph to have a different font size. In order to actually target specific elements, I could do something like ID, literally provide an ID for that element. So this ID is something that I could create. I could just name it second paragraph. It's a bit long, but at least we know what it's referencing. Because we've provided an ID attribute, we'll go ahead and save here. We actually indicate the selector in a different way. We're no longer targeting the actual element, we're targeting the ID. And in order to note ID, we do a hashtag or a £, second paragraph, the value of the ID. Again, because I wanted to change the font size, I'll indicate the attribute and the value there. I'll need to save here. And when I go to here, reload, you'll notice that the font size there is now much smaller, but both of the colors are, both of these paragraphs have the same color because I've indicated that all paragraph elements still need to have that color. Any questions here? Good. Okay. Okay. So now something special about IDs is you could actually only have one of these IDs for every page. And by that, I mean, you won't quite be able to, actually, let's create a third paragraph with the same kind of ID. Let's see what happens. Save, go here. Oh, it's doing it something it shouldn't do. Okay, well, what I was trying to show is that you should only have very unique IDs here, and that for each ID that you create, you can only use it once on the page. HTML and the browser in general, sometimes they get a little too smart, and they're like, well, we see what you're trying to do, so we're going to try to help you along, even though it's not the right way to do it. Let's go ahead and try to target this one. So we have third paragraph, styles, pound sign, third paragraph, open and close brackets, and I'm going to go ahead and override the color here to orange with my semicolon. Here we go. Ta-da! Okay. So this is how you target IDs, specific elements, even though your elements can, even though there are multiple of that type of element on the document. Okay. Now, let's say, for instance, I want to target multiple paragraphs, and I want them to all have a certain kind of styling. And because I'm targeting multiple elements and I want them to share the same kind of style, I actually use a class attribute. And let's make this a more generic paragraph. Actually, let's try italicized, italics. There you go. So I'm going to make these two paragraphs here italicized with italics. So I'll go ahead and type that in there as well. In my styles document, the way I target classes is with a period. And here we could try a font style. And we'll go ahead and do italic. So what we've got here is class italics, class italics. This is our second and third paragraph. And in here, refresh. Ta-da! Second and third paragraphs are italicized. Okay. Does everyone understand the difference between using an ID and a class? No? It's okay, it's totally fine. I had a botched example. I feel like I was foiled by Chrome. But okay, so the main idea is ID is something that you use to target a specific element, and you're only using the ID once. For classes, you could target a group of elements and apply your styles to like more than one element. Okay. Okay, any other questions there? Okay, so all of this looks pretty, you know, it looks pretty rudimentary. The internet community is actually really cool in that it has solved so many of these problems of how do you make a website interactive and engaging and nice looking. Bootstrap is a library that has been created by, I think, some founders at Twitter to pretty much provide you with, I'll say, components or features that you could use on your website without having to rebuild everything. So far we have HTML, which is like the bones or the body of the website. You have CSS, which is the styles, or I like to think of it as like the dress up or the makeup of the website. And then you have Bootstrap, which is pretty much like the closet. It has all your shoes, your jackets, your accessories, everything that you know that you're going to be using day in and day out. And I'll go ahead and share the website with you because we are going to need that.
One question real quick about CSS page.
Yes. Doing that again. Is somebody on mute?
It was for Jessica. Cool. It looks like she's got it.
Okay. Doing it again. Meeting. Where is my? I'm gonna close chat. Oh, it's because I minimized my chat window. I usually don't use Zoom on my personal computer, so this is a little bit jarring. Sorry about this. Thank you for being patient with me on this. Okay. Organization here. Okay. All right, so I will go ahead and navigate to Get Bootstrap. And I will share that with you all. Here. Oh, awesome. Okay. Jessica, do you still need to see my CSS page? Okay, so, okay, responsive. So we'll go ahead and click on the Get Started. And this is the actual documentation for Bootstrap. For any language out there, there is going to be some level of documentation. Will not always be as thorough, but for Bootstrap, because it's so popular, widely used, they are very thorough about how to use it, features that Bootstrap has in their library. Okay, so here, in order to get started, we need to copy and paste the link into your head element before all other style sheets load. So here we copy, we go into our Visual Studio here, and because we already have an external style sheet, it says paste it before all of your other styles. So I have that there. And at this point, I don't think you should be able to see any changes on your page. Oh, actually you do. It changes your fonts. Again, a feature of the Bootstrap library is it sort of standardizes its font scheme. Okay. Bootstrap also uses some JavaScript to create the interactive experience that you'll see on a lot of pages. Here it gives us, okay, so here it says place one of the following scripts near the end of your page right before the closing body tag. So it's a body slash, or a slash body tag to enable them. I think we could go ahead and just copy this first one. Sarah, I did have a question for you as to whether or not we use the bundle or the separate. I don't think there's a difference here, but. I think we could just go with the first one.
That's a good question. I don't think it matters.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So let's go ahead and copy. And we want to make sure that we place this in a very specific place. We have this body, and I'll go ahead and push intro or return to create a space, go up and paste that there. So I should have script, then slash body.
I'm seeing one, Mina, on the towards the top of that page, like just below the npm installs. That's just a CSS, like at the towards the top, I believe, of just the front of the Bootstrap docs. Maybe it's on the home page.
You mean on the documentation page? What is it?
Yeah. Like if you go back to the home on the home of Bootstrap.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh wait, just kidding. Right there, the CSS link, I think it was all I need, unless you're doing the. Are you adding anything that requires JavaScript?
Oh, I figured that the carousel might need it.
Oh, got it. Yeah, I think you're perfect.
Okay. Yeah, we'll be implementing a component that may or may not require some JavaScript here.
Yeah, I think that one's the one you need.
Yeah. Okay. So. Okay. So I think Franco was the one with the question earlier of like, we have different. Can we have different languages on the HTML document? And we did reference having a script tag here. What this is doing is it's literally referencing a source file that Bootstrap has available to public to the internet. And this is, you'll notice at the end, it says a .js, that's a JS file. And so they are exposing JS files or JavaScript files so that the components that we have are, oh, okay. So Linda, you have, where are we pasting the bundle? Okay, so we want to make sure we're pasting it closer to the bottom of the document, right above the slash body closing tag. And also, let's see, is there an undo button on the coding page? So when you're on editing within your text editor or VS Code, you could go to File or Edit, Undo, or it'll show you a shortcut for Command Z if you're on a Mac or Control Z if you're on a Windows. Good questions. These are all shortcuts that programmers use day in and day out. So while these menus are helpful, it'll definitely make programming easier to pick up some of these shortcuts. I thought the paste wiped everything, but I needed to scroll over. Okay. Is it with pasting the script? Yeah, so when we paste really long sections of code, sometimes the editor will try to show you like where the content of all the code that you pasted ended. And so it probably like shifted you down here. And then, yeah, that could be jarring because it's like, where did all my code go? It's still there. Okay, very good. Any other questions? All good so far? Okay, so at this point, we want to make sure we save. And we go back to our queries page, refresh. Okay, so again, at this point, because we haven't really implemented any of the features, you won't really see any changes here. Okay, so at this point, I want to sort of talk about like the workflow that a developer experiences when they're building a web page. So usually web developers, they work from something called a wireframe or mockups. I'll go ahead and share this with you all as well, because this is super important. This is sort of a wireframe indicating generally the sections of the page where like standout content should be. Here it's indicating a header with, you know, some kind of title, a welcoming message of some sort. Here it doesn't really care about the like actual words. It's just indicating that there's going to be space for paragraphed content there. And then it's indicating that there's going to be 3 sections here, likely links to other pages to provide more information. And then another section of information here. So all of this was, you have your head, your header, this big old space here, your body, which is primarily all of this, and your footer. So these sort of sound similar to HTML things. They actually, you know, we use the same words to describe a lot of different things. Just know that all of this that you're seeing here is still code that is represented within the body tag. Okay. Okay, so as we're working from a wireframe, we notice that we have something here. This is like our header that sort of grabs the attention of the audience. That's something that Bootstrap has indicated as a Jumbotron. It has the general feature of like you have a big space and some titles. How we access Bootstrap's already built out version of this is on the Bootstrap page. On the left-hand side, we have components. We're going to go ahead and click that. And these are all the pre-made features that they have. We'll click on Jumbotron. And here it's a short description, but this is their very basic version of that Jumbotron. Here's the code that they have for it, and you'll notice all HTML and some references to some class. We'll go ahead and copy this into our HTML document. So because we're getting rid of pretty much, actually, let's go ahead and do it right below our body tag. So enter. And I've noticed that there's some kind of spacing issues. I like my opening and closing HTML elements to be aligned. So I might like have some spaces. There are guides that VS Code has to try to give you that sense of alignment there. All right, so we'll save here. And let's just see what we have on our page. So we hit reload and voila, it's got stuff there. And what do you know? It's actually applying our own personalized styles to their H1 tag and their paragraph tags as well. Anybody have any questions here so far? We're all good? Okay. So at this point, we could probably remove this kind of content here because we're going to be using Bootstrap components at this point to style the rest of our page. So at this point, I will go ahead and remove this H1 that I've created, this paragraph, second paragraph, third paragraph, and remove those. Save. And reload. And if you're not excited about these styles, we could change them. I'm going to go ahead and leave them here. You'll notice that there's a button here. It actually doesn't go anywhere. But let's go ahead and dissect what that looks like in the code that we pasted. So here, I'm going to close this sidebar. There we go, just so we could see more of that. So it has an H1 tag, hello world. It's referencing some classes. These are classes that are not in our file. This is, again, something that Bootstrap has exposed in their own style sheets. Here it says this is a simple hero unit, a simple Jumbotron style component. We could edit this to indicate content about whatever we're building our website for. This is I believe a header row. It's that line that you see across the Jumbotron. Show that right there. And a paragraph. So I'll go ahead and leave this content here just so that we have something to reference. And then we have an A, which is an anchor tag. And you'll see that it has a role of a button and it says learn more. At this point, we probably don't want to create a link. We'll get to links in a little bit, but we'll go ahead and remove this because our wireframe actually does not include a button in our header. It really just has this and something like that. So you could edit your HTML document as you see fit for what you're trying to achieve. Okay. So at this point, something else that we could do to sort of style this is provide background images for this section. And another instructor, Andy at Learn, suggested that we could use a website with stock images called upsplash.com. Did I do that wrong? There we go. Oh, nope, that's still the wrong one. Oh. I thought it was Upsplash. I'm going to Google this. There it is. Oh, it's Unsplash. There we go. Okay, well, that's good that I tried that there. Okay, so. Boop. All right, well, this has royalty-free images that you could use. Really cool. You could sort of just Google for some, or search for some images. I'm gonna go ahead and try to grab some images regarding the topic I'm creating my website for. I like this one. So I'll click on that one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the link that references this actual image. You could right click if you're on a Windows. This is a copy image address. It might be like something like copy URL on a Windows. So I have this copied in my clipboard. And at this point, okay. Might be jumping around a little bit here. I want to target, okay, so yeah, I'm gonna need to back up just for a moment here. With this HTML markup provided by Twitter, it has a div, and this div actually references this whole section right here, this gray section. And everything else is nested within it. So it's actually in this gray area that I want to be able to provide a background image for. And so in order to do that, I want to reference or target that actual element. A new element that they're using, well, not new to us, or it is new to us. Div is actually a very generic element that you'll see. It's short for division. It just creates a container or a box. So in this case, we'll go ahead and provide it an ID. And this is going to be like a jumbo berry picture. So I'll have an ID of jumbo berry. Again, save. And in my styles, because it's an ID, jumbo berry. Okay. So now here we're going to provide the attribute of a background image. And because we're using a web URL to reference that image, we'll go ahead and select that and paste that URL inside the parentheses. Save this file, and let's see if that updates here. There it is. All right. How's everybody doing with this? Yeah, cool. All right. Okay, so you could go ahead and edit these styles if you're interested, but we're going to go ahead and move on to the next part of this wireframe that we'll be building out here is this paragraph section. So you'll notice this is just one or two paragraphs. And because they're more or less going to be styled the same way, we want to wrap those paragraphs in a container. So again, we'll create a div. And this is going to be the next line. Div. New line, paragraph. And we sort of need just some filler words. In web development, that's usually called lorem ipsum. And it's essentially just a garble of text. There's a lot of different places that you could, on the internet, that just generate garbled text. So a place that I like to go to is Meet the Ipsums, and this has sort of like their own themes for the words that they choose to put together. You'll have cat ipsum, cheeseburger ipsum, Bluth ipsum if you're a Arrested Development fan. So I'll go ahead and put that there. And it will link you to some, whatever you. So because again, we don't quite have all of our text content created, we're just using placeholder text. I'm going to be using Cupcake ipsum. I could not find a berry ipsum, so this is the closest I got. And I already clicked generate, so I'll be just grabbing some text here. And using that as a placeholder. Again, it brings you to the end of the content that you've pasted, so you're going to need to scroll to the left to see all of your code again. And when I go here, go back to my page, I'll see more content there. Okay. And because there's 2 paragraphs, I'll go ahead and just copy and paste those that paragraph element with the same text, save, and refresh. Any questions there? We're all good. All right. So.
Did you see Linda's question?
Oh, okay. My picture wasn't the right dimension. It looks like it pasted it twice to fill the area. Thank you for that. Yeah. There is some like sort of like adjustments that sometimes needs to be made depending on the dimensions of your photo. What I think the browser is automatically doing is it's repeating the image to fill out the space. If you do not want it to repeat the image, what you can do is provide an attribute on the next line here in however you're targeting that like Jumbotron container. And I think you could do background, repeat, and indicate no repeat. There are other options you'll notice before I selected that. So there's a repeat, which is the default that the browser did. Repeat -X, repeat -Y, or no repeat. X and Y tells you in which direction it's trying to repeat in. I actually don't know what brown does, but we'll try no repeat. And you could try that, save, and see if that adjusts accordingly. And if it doesn't look nice, it might be a matter of just choosing an image that can stretch to the size or I guess like could fit to the dimensions of the page. Okay. Any questions there? Okay. All right. So now in terms of playing with a little more styles, sometimes spacing is very important in order to present things nicely. There are 2 ways of creating spacing. You'll notice on my paragraphs here, it's the text is going from one edge to the next. In this case, if I want to create some padding on the left and the right side, I need to tell it in the styles to do that. So here, I want to target these 2 paragraphs. So I'll go ahead and name paragraph as the class, or provide a paragraph class, and indicate that for these 2 paragraphs. And because it's a class, we have paragraph. So earlier I said padding, but you could indicate margin, and that's a space around the container outside of it. And let's give it 20 pixels. By indicating just 1 unit of measure here, it's actually going to add 20 pixels on the top, to the left, to the right, and to the bottom. You'll notice it's doing that there, to the left and right. Maybe not super noticeable on the top and bottom, but it's there. Okay. Any questions there? Wow, how are you guys doing that? Okay, all right. So moving on, the next thing that we're looking to put here in our wireframe are these 3 sections. Now, Bootstrap has more or less provided something named cards that represents this kind of component. So we'll go back to our Bootstrap page, and we'll click card. And it'll give us an example. There's the image, and then card title, and then some content, and then again a button to link somewhere. We'll copy this to clipboard. And because we are, actually I'll go ahead and go back to this wireframe. Because we have essentially a row of 3 of these cards, we actually need a way to contain all of these cards. So like what we did before, new line, we're going to create a div, and within it, we'll go ahead and paste the card component. Save, and when we go back to our page, you'll see some semblance of it. Now you'll notice that there's like an image break icon here. It's because we haven't referenced a link to an actual image, and we could go ahead and do that in our HTML. So we have div. This is the card. That's the whole container. That's actually the border that you see. And then image. This is a new element here. We provide the source of it, and then alternative text. This is for screen readers. Should a person not be able to see the image, they could still hear a description of the image. So now for this source, we want to do something that we did similar here in providing the URL to indicate to this image tag what we want that image to look like. So back at Unsplash, I'm going to go ahead and grab another image of berries, strawberries, which are not actually berries. So sorry if I did that really quickly. Right click, copy image address. That gets the URL. Visual code. And where these 3 ellipses are, remove, paste. And we want to make sure that whole URL is encapsulated within the double quotations. So at the beginning, And at the end, just like any other attribute values, save. And when we go to our page, voila, we've got an image. And here I'm going to go ahead and give it some more semantic titling here. And let's say for, you'll notice here that has that button. That anchor element represents that button. href is the link. So let's say, for instance, I want to link it to a page about strawberries, strawberry dogs, a Wikipedia page. So I'm going to take the URL here, copy, and instead of this #, remove it, paste, and save. On my actual page, I should be able to refresh. And when I click that, it should point to our strawberry Wikipedia page or whatever other link that you found. Cool. All right. Any questions so far? We're all good here? Sweet. Okay. So as per our wireframe, we have 3 of those. I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste those 3 cards. Something to note here is whenever I copy and paste code, I want to be able to highlight from the element, including all of these spaces right here. The reason why that's important is because if sometimes you don't include all the spaces, the alignment can go off. And then it becomes sort of hard to read and keep track of what sections of your code represent what on your page. Okay, cool. All right, so copy, paste, paste, save. Refresh, and it actually has three cards and they stack automatically. This is a function of the browser actually. Something that I didn't mention earlier was that the browser actually has its own default CSS because if a website doesn't provide CSS, it sort of has its own understanding of how to style elements. So by default, it will just start stacking div elements on top of each other. A way that we could make it be presented side by side is by actually changing something in our styles. So going back to this div element that we created as the container for all of our cards, we'll go ahead and target this with a class, and we'll say card container. Copy, paste, save. And in my CSS styles. So in CSS, we indicate the attribute of display. And we select flex. So there's let me go back here. Yeah, there's quite a few other options, Flexbox. You'll probably want to reference CSS documentation to understand what all of these are. They're all just different ways to tell the browser how to display things. When we click flex, semicolon, save, go ahead and go back, it automatically knows, hey, instead of stacking all of these cards, let's just present them side by side. Cool. Any questions here? Okay, and okay, so you'll notice that these cards, again, they're all like skewed all the way to the left. I want to give them some space in between and probably even center them, or yeah, let's see if we could center them. So in this card container, let's see if we could do.
Can you go back to the HTML page real quick? I think we missed something.
Sure. Sounds good. Thank you, Linda. Was there something in particular, Jessica, that you're encountering?
Mine's not stacking, or mine's not showing up across the page. It's still in a straight line there.
Oh, okay, sure. Would you mind sharing your HTML or sharing your screen?
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop sharing here. Okay, see your screen. Okay, so on line 25, it looks like there is a closing div.
Here?
Can you scroll up just a little bit here? Okay, I want to make sure that things are aligned here. Okay, so instead of a closing div, and by that I mean the slash, we could remove that slash in front of the div. Okay, and then let's scroll down a little, because again, for every div that gets opened, we want to make sure we close it. So at the very bottom, I think you could click on line 50. Yeah, and then press return or enter. And close that div. So we'll do a caret, a less than, slash div. There you go. So it already knows that you're trying to close the div. Awesome. And let's save that and see if,
There we go.
yay.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see what else we got here. Okay. Should I not have text in my image header? By image header, what do you mean? Would you like to share your screen, Gary? Are we referring to the Jumbotron or one of the cards? Okay. Oh, I see, because the paragraphs seem to have, okay, so that might be an issue of nesting the paragraphs correctly. This is perfectly fine if this is something that you'd like, but if you would like to correct that, we could also move this first paragraph that you have down below and outside of the Jumbotron. And the way you can do that, let's look at your HTML. Yep, and so when we scroll up, let's see, it looks like on line 16, yeah, you might want to move that down to something like move it down to line 20 or 21. Mm-hmm. You could cut, so command, oh, okay, perfect. Yeah. Oh, you want to do that just above the div, the closing div. Awesome. Save. And let's see what that looks like there. Okay, cool. Awesome. Okay. Sweet. Okay. Very cool. All right, so I think, let's see, we're here. Okay, so we're going to provide some spacing around the cards here. And in order to do that, spacing is styling. So here, I think something that we could reference. Let me see if I could. We have justify content and space around. So feel free to like play with different options here. I'll try space around, save, and let's see what that looks like on the browser. Voila.
Share your screen, Mina. It looks like it stopped sharing.
Oh, that is right. Actually, I'm going to share my whole desktop there. Okay. Cool. Any questions so far? All right. So,
You touch on that last little part you just went through that they didn't get to see.
oh, that's right, because you guys didn't get to see this. Okay, so in the container card class, I provided this attribute, justify content. The value for it is space around, but let me go ahead and show other options. It says space between, space evenly. I selected space around, but I'm actually sort of curious as to what space evenly looks like. Refresh. Okay, so there's a small little adjustment. I can't really tell you exactly what the actual difference is. And actually, this is probably a good time to share with you the W3 schools for CSS, because that is a great place to reference questions like, what is the difference between space around and space evenly? There's that disappearing chat box again. Poor navigation on my part. Sorry, guys. So I sent a link specifically for background image, but feel free to navigate on the left sidebar to get an understanding of all the different things that you could do in CSS. Okay, I think we're actually at a pretty good stopping point at this point for our lunch break, which I believe is going to be half hour.
Yep, you are correct. So we'll take a quick 30 minutes for lunch. And we're just going to keep this meeting room open. So I recommend just muting yourself, maybe turning off your video real quick, using the bathroom, grabbing some water, grabbing a quick little bite to eat. And then we're going to be back here at 12:30. I know I'm going to be here most of the time. So just if you have any questions or anything, just let us know. So. Cool. Great. So we're going to go ahead and break. So please.
Cool. Okay. So.
One thing. Gary had a quick question. Let's just do that real quick.
about stories. And then here I'll do Go Bananas. There we go. Oops. All right, refresh. Oop. And I probably want to change the title of that too. Bananas. Save. Something I wanted to call out was in the HTML document, when we copied the code that Bootstrap provided us, you'll see that there's this style attribute. This is another way of actually styling your elements. And as mentioned earlier, usually you want to be able to keep all your styles in one place and all of your structural elements in one place. So this is actually something that we could migrate to our styles document, especially with how they all have the same kind of styling. And I think we'll go ahead and do that. So do like card styling. So something to note is all these classes that are provided by Bootstrap. So right off the bat, before I did that card, this is a class that Bootstrap is already referencing. If we were to actually call that or reference that class in here, we'd be overriding the styles that Bootstrap has provided, and then that sort of loses the functionality of what Bootstrap is providing us. So we don't want to do that. Whenever they provide their own classes, we sort of just want to not reference them in our personal external style sheet. But we want to create other classes that we can reference that Bootstrap does not provide. So card styling is sort of our custom class there. We'll save card styling. Okay, tab. And again, here it says style. So this right here is actually CSS. I'm gonna cut, paste, save. And then I'm gonna remove this style attribute. Something that I didn't mention that I did here was I put a space in between card and card styling. In order to provide different classes, you can essentially provide different classes to the same element. And you do that by including it in within the quotations and putting a space in between each of those class names. It still gives reference to that element. So because I want all the styling for card styling to appear for each of these cards, I'm going to go ahead and do that for all of my cards. And remove this styling class. So this process of like cleaning up our code or like putting code in the place that makes more sense to us, that's actually called refactoring. And that's a very important part of programming actually. Refactoring is making code so that it is more readable and more maintainable. And you know, there's a lot of other benefits to doing it, but a lot of it has to do with just putting code in the places that you would expect, making code make sense. Sometimes people, I'm also a culprit of this. I write code that doesn't make sense. And so refactoring has a lot of elements to it. Okay, so we push save, card styling, all of our cards are referencing that. We go, and we actually shouldn't see any changes because all we did was literally move the same code from one place to the other. Okay, and then I'm just gonna replace this one more image here to something else. Wow, browser's going really slow here. Okay. Tomatoes. Tomatoes are berries. Yeah, let's go ahead and use this first one here. Okay, image source, paste, save. I'm gonna hit tomatoes. Tomatoes. More. And let's get a link for tomatoes. Everything you need to know about tomatoes. Everything. All right. So here we go. Refresh. Voila. And we could go ahead and click these buttons and they will link us to the right resource. Tomatoes. There we go. Okay. So going back to this paragraph section, I think I want to create more spacing on the left and right side. And so if we're going to identify where that was happening. Okay, so that was actually happening here. This div container is wrapping these two paragraphs. So like we usually do, class. And I'll go ahead and do paragraph container. Save. Dot paragraph container. And there's another way of indicating spacing. So padding is actually, let's see, CSS box model. So this is something that's actually pretty helpful to get an understanding of in terms of providing spacing. I will put this in the chat. There we go. Okay, so now, for some reason I accidentally closed that. The box model. Okay, so the box model, this is one of those things that if you're going to be a front-end developer or a web developer, you will need to understand how the spacing works. Now with each div or element, a box is created. And that box is wrapped by this border. Margin is the spacing around the box outside. Padding is the spacing inside the box. And then you have your content. So That's the further description there. Actually, let me go ahead and go to the page here. So we have a div that doesn't quite have a border, or its border is styled so that you don't see it. But how we've styled it so far is these paragraphs actually have a margin, like a spacing on the outside of the paragraph box. We're going to be referencing the div that contains both of those paragraphs and then adding a padding, which is inside of the box. And you'll see that here. So if I do add padding 20 pixels, save, refresh, you'll see that it is adding padding above, below, left, and right. I think that's what I saw. You guys saw that too? Okay. So now let's say, for instance, I only want to add padding on the left and right of the box, not on the top and the bottom. I could specify left padding. Padding left. And padding right. And before I refresh, notice there's padding here. When I refresh, that padding goes away. Ah. Oh, okay. So you don't see the left and right padding because it's actually, because we've provided margins on the paragraphs, there's like a bit of an overlap between the two. I think what I could do is probably exaggerate this. You might be able to see. There you go. Yeah. They were sort of meeting at the same place. So by adding more padding than there was margin on the paragraph element, we're able to actually see that change now. So if I do that, you'll see more padding on the left side or the right side. Ta-da! So yeah, that's sort of starting to look a little nicer now. Okay, any questions so far? Okay. Cool. And now for this, I think what I will do to just sort of clean this up. Is there a chat? Oh, okay. I think I missed. Paragraph container is in the HTML file. Oh, sure. Okay, so paragraph container, I have that wrapped around the two paragraphs that I created. So there's this div here with in it, it was nested paragraph, the two paragraphs. Oops. Okay. 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 Any questions there? I think that might have answered it. Oops. Okay. Can you show me where that goes again? Okay, cool. Yeah, feel free to call that out. Okay, so I think we're all on the same page here. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to do was just change this so that it was a little more legible, the color of all of these. I think what I'm actually going to do is just change them all to like a white-ish color. With that, I'll be using class. So this hello world was an H1 this was a paragraph, this was a paragraph. Okay, so I'll just use white for now. And I'm going to go ahead and paste that all in. Not the HR, that's like a header row. This one, I actually need to add the class attribute. Wait. Okay. And I think we actually have this here. So because these are probably the thing that's like overriding the styles, I'm going to remove these because we no longer really want to reference these. And because we deleted a lot of those other elements that we were using before, second paragraph, third paragraph, italics, I'm going to go ahead and delete those as well because they're not being referenced in the HTML document. And I created that white class. So color white, semicolon, save. Make sure that's saved. And I'm going to refresh here. Okay, yeah, so that's a little more legible. Ah, notice because I removed that P selector in CSS, it removes the P, like the stylings that I had here. I totally forgot that I was referencing that here, which is fine. I actually sort of like it like that. The purple was sort of jarring. But feel free to put that back in there if you want that kind of styling. Okay. All right. So just a moment here. I'm gonna try to see what we have next. Okay. So referencing our wireframe that we were building from, here it's creating a new section, and then there's more content here. So this is like, it's sort of indicating that it's paragraph, but what we're actually going to do is we're going to use another component built by Bootstrap, and we're going to put like a carousel of images. In order to do that, first we want to create that section. And so below that section, just like what we usually do, we create a div, new line, and let's go ahead and create another header to indicate that this is like some more information. I'm going to use H3. You'll notice that by default, HTML has H1, 2, 3, all the way to 6. And these are all by default styled in different ways. So H1 is usually styled the largest, and H6 is styled the smallest. All of them represent headers. Go ahead and do that. H3 and more things about berries. Let's just make sure that shows up on our page. Refresh. Here it is. So now we'll notice again, this section here, it's like, oh, well, it's all the way to the left. I probably want more spacing so that it's not right below the cards. So for this header, we could style the header, but it's more, it's just in good practice to style the container, wrapping all of your content there. So class, and I'll just type more info. Yeah. This is a more info class. Save. More info, open, close curly brackets. Okay, so again, the thing that I wanted was, first I want there to be more spacing on the top and the left. So margin, I could do margin top. And let's give it 30 pixels. I'll also do margin left. And let's do 50 pixels. Semicolon, save. Refresh. There it is. Cool. All the way at the bottom. Yeah, that looks nicer. It actually might be better if it's like more aligned here, but we can fix that later. Okay. All right. So here is probably a good place for me to put my carousel. And by that, we will go back to our Twitter website. Actually, let me ask if, are we all good at this point? Cool. Okay, so on Twitter, we have Carousel. Again, if you've navigated away, it's under the components menu. We have Carousel. So now this one, they actually provide quite a few options. So you'll see they have a slides only option, which takes a little while for like the slides to go from one slide to the next. They have with controls, which has these left and right arrows. And then they have these indicators, which indicates like how many slides you have and which one it's showing. So if I like click this one, I'll go to the second one, third one, and also the controls. So I think for simplicity's sake, let's go with the with controls one. So we'll copy here, copy our HTML page, paste, save. And we could just quickly reference to see what it is showing here on our page. Not much, because we don't have images that we put into there. But you can see if like you wait for a moment, you'll see that icon at the bottom, slide. And so anytime you like have an image element with the source that's not indicated, it's more of like a broken link. That's the indication of it. Okay, so let's grab some more images. Unsplash.com. All right, so maybe I want to do stuff you could do with berries. That looks yummy. All right, so copy image address. Okay, so I want to take a moment here. It has a div, which is the container of the whole carousel. Has an ID, carousel example controls. We probably don't really need to worry about that unless we want to like reference this ID. Right now, we don't really need to. Carousel, space, slide. So again, these are word classes that we cannot reference in our styles CSS unless we're trying to do something to override the way Twitter has or Bootstrap has already written or designed styles for these classes. In our carousel, you have carousel item. So this is sort of the thing that we want to pay attention to. Carousel item, carousel item, carousel item. So this is probably an indicator to represent like the classes that are wrapping the images that will be shown for each slide. And you also have image source here. So I think I already copied the link to that cheesecake pie, strawberry pie thing. I'll save. Go to here, refresh. Again, I've only provided one image. It's a really big image, but you get to see how, if I go to the next, there's a broken link, sort of like, you know, okay. So some styling could be done for this, or perhaps we might be able to get a smaller image there. Yeah, actually, let's go ahead and see if we could manipulate the size of this image so that it's smaller. Yes, please. Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, so in terms of the style there, okay. Actually, I want to reference the documentation on Twitter, see if we could, if it already has a way of controlling the size of these images. And okay, I'll go ahead and fix that. Thank you. Looks like it doesn't really have a way of doing that. Okay. All right, so let's do first image class. Again, this is for the first slide where we provided that image. And I added a class. Save. And in here, we'll do first image dot first image. Let's see if this works. I want to have a width of 100 pixels. Save, and let's see if that does anything. Oh, it doesn't, it still stretches. Yeah. So something about CSS, sometimes you gotta guess as to how the styles will work. We could look a little more in the documentation, but actually I think it did limit the width a little more here. But let's go ahead and just jam some more images into here from Unslashed. Let's see if there's anybody else have any questions so far? Okay. All right. Go ahead and grab this one. Paste. Let's do, sort of looks like pizza. Let's do this one. Doesn't necessarily look like a pie, but that's okay.
Yeah, 2 seconds for Franco's question.
Sure. Trying to add the carousel. Do you mind sharing where that copy and paste? Okay, sure thing. Okay, so what I did was below the cards, there was a div that contained all of the cards. So right after the closing tab for that div, /div, I created a new div element, which was like a container. I created a class of more info. And then we already had the H3 created in there. And then this is all the Bootstrap code that we nested inside this more info div. And again, perfectly fine to take a moment here to align your divs. Cool. All right. The other thing that in this pasted code that we got from Bootstrap, there's the anchors, which are the controls on the left and the right. So you'll see like a previous and a next. Okay, so let's go ahead and check it out. Okay, huge. But if we go next. All right. Okay, so the size of this, pretty big. Let's see if we could not style the image itself, but maybe the container of the div that the carousel is within. So on this more info class, I'm going to see if I could put a width on this. Let's try that. See? And what do you know? It shrunk it. Voila, we have accomplished. So what that's doing is it's making that whole container just 100 pixels wide. So probably means I need to make it a little bit bigger, maybe something like 700. Refresh here. Ta-da, there you go. That's looking a little nicer. And there you go. Cool. All right, so now this is more or less where we're wanting things to go. Last thing is usually for most pages, we have a footer. And that's usually just information to indicate like who is the author or the company. And we'll go ahead and do that by providing a, a footer element. So after that whole container, that more info div, footer. And I'll go ahead and put my name. I'll do something like Learn 2020. Okay, let's see how that populates on our page. Ta-da! Again, we could style this. Usually footers are not really that close to the content of the page, so I'm going to style this in here. I'm going to reference the actual element because I'm pretty confident I'm not going to need to add another footer element in a page. If anything, it's pretty standard to have only one footer element per page. So here I'm just going to say margin, and it's just the top. I'll do like 50 pixels. Save. Okay. I'll go ahead and put a margin left as well, just to. I'll do 50. All right, cool. Okay, so have I?
Gary's question, Mina?
Sorry.
Gary's question is more.info isn't updating the website accurately.
Oh, okay. Here.
Oh, never mind. He said he got it. It's all good.
Cool. All right. Okay, so now that we have most of our content built out, we haven't really dipped into the responsiveness of this. We can't exactly check this website out because this website as it is right now only lives on your computer. In order for it to actually be something you could access on your phone, you would have to put it on some kind of server. And there are some free hosting companies out there that allows you to do this, but because you are essentially using storage space, most companies charge for it. And it's also another relatively complicated process or step. So for now, we'll just be checking this locally. And by locally, I mean on your actual computer. A way that we could do, a way that we could see how this website may be represented on a mobile device is actually using a developer tool provided to us by our browser. So I think if everybody is primarily using Chrome, this shouldn't be a problem. If anybody is using something like Safari or Opera or Mozilla, there might be different menu items that we might need to click, but feel free to put that in the chat to let me know if you need help with that. So in order to see that, we right click on the page and we go to view page source. Oops, sorry, not page source. Importing here. Inspect. And this actually opens up our developer tools for Chrome. And what we want to do is, all right, there's this zoom menu that's in the way. Okay. You will see this icon here. It looks like it has like a little cell phone with maybe a tablet or a window. When we click on it, and then we go back, you'll see that it is trying to represent it in a responsive way. And we can click on this responsive menu drop down. And let's say, for instance, I want to see what it looks like on a Pixel 2. Usually in this case, because rendering on different devices actually requires like a fresh reload, we are actually going to reload here so that styles can be applied correctly. And so this is more or less what it would look like on a Pixel 2. And there are some things that we probably could edit here, but you'll notice that it actually like collapses and sort of does some adjustments. We probably need to do some more work to figure out the width here. And we still have a footer. But we could check this on other devices. Again, we would want to refresh every time we select a different thing and see how that gets represented on a different device. So a little more work to make it look a little better, but refresh. Okay, any questions there? Pretty good, pretty good. Okay, let's see. I think that about wraps it up. Oh, I think I might have missed one little part of our document here. Okay, this is more just like adding more content to our HTML page, but we'll go ahead and do that. So right below the more things heading and above the carousel, common elements that are used in websites are list elements. And why? Because it's a pretty common piece of content we usually indicate on websites. So we have an element called UL, and this is called an ordered list. The difference between UL and something like an OL, you don't have to type this part, is ordered list. So the UL, unordered, means that all the list items in here will be represented in a way that does not have a 1, 2, and 3 list item. So list item is what LI stands for. I'm going to go ahead and remove ordered list. And I'll just indicate list items just as a filler for now. And copy and paste quite a few lists just so that we have an understanding of what that looks like on our page. Okay. So here we're still on the responsive side of it. What you could do to navigate out so that we're viewing it on desktop is clicking this toggle device toolbar. Make sure it's not highlighted, go back, refresh. Okay, so it was already refreshing for us. But there you go. So we have these list items. And again, the bullet points there are just not ordered. If I were to change this though, I'm actually curious what that looks like to OL. It actually does what I said it would do. There it goes. So ordered list, you have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. I think that's about sums up the whole page. Does anybody have questions at this point?
And my pictures blew up. The ones that are the 3 pictures in a row, mine became like full page and now they're like stacked for some reason.
Oh, okay. For the carousel or for the cards?
No, for the cards. The carousel seems to be fine.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Would you mind sharing your screen?
Sorry, I'm always the one that can't figure it out.
No, this is great because I think these, you know, this is something that's pretty common actually. Is just like, why did these images stretch across the page?
So
Everyone to see.
my page ended up like this.
Mm-hmm.
And they like blew up. And then down here it's fine. And then one of my images is gone from my cards.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at your HTML. Okay.
So I think it happened in here. I took that stuff out and that was what messed it up. And then when I tried to put it back and it didn't do anything.
Sure. Let's see here. I'm gonna need to read this a little. So we have card styling, container. I think it might be we might have accidentally removed a div, a closing div. Okay, so
Again, closing div.
Yeah, I think it, let's see here.
Well, you had us take this out.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, yeah. Go ahead and remove the width, RM. And then, yeah, double quotations and save. Let's see, because sometimes when there's like, you know, some part of the syntax that the browser doesn't quite understand, it will do something weird. Okay. Okay. And so we're getting here because it's showing, are we scrolling all the way to the left on the page?
Yeah. Oh, on here? Yeah. It's all the way over to the side. So maybe in my style.
Oh, actually, line 35 on your HTML document, there's an extra caret there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there's one here too. Okay.
Yeah, this is the experience of programming is sometimes there's like some random character that just shows up and things go haywire.
There was some earlier, but they turned red and I just realized it had doubled. And so I just deleted it and then it was fine. But this is still not, maybe it's in my style.
So, dude, that's closing. Code card. Oh, did we navigate card styling? Do we have a,
I think I deleted the card styling trying to get it to go back to how it was and it didn't.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so let's go back to the index.html here. I think for the most part it should code styling. Oh, okay, yeah. So we will need to indicate card styling in styles.css.
And these don't matter which order they're in, I've noticed.
Correct. We'll say that for now. In other, it can if we are showing multiple things. Sorry, it can if we are selecting multiple elements and trying to apply styles to them. It's usually the last style that gets applied to the element in the CSS that shows up if there's like conflicting, I guess, attributes or values.
Right. So then what I'm typing here? The period and then card styling and then what?
And then open curly brackets. And then we have width. Colon 18 REM. So I didn't actually explain REM. REM is another unit of measure, and then semicolon. Save, which is called, I think it's like root M or root emphasis. Okay, so these are collapsing a little more, right? Oh, yeah.
A little bit small, maybe smaller. There was a third one there and I don't know where it went.
Okay. So I think there might be something else in our HTML where it's not quite understanding where to grab the image from. So the third one is probably the one for the bridge, right? Okay. Oh, okay. So line 44, I think we might have been closing the div a little too soon. So let's remove that. Slash div, yeah, we'll remove line 44 there. And then let's see.
This one too?
Yeah, I think we could remove that as well.
35?
Correct, yep. Save.
Oh, that's a little bit better.
Yay. All right. So I think, yeah, let's see. It looks like at line 50, you have an open and closed div. That one we probably could remove line 50 and 51.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so, okay. I think there might be a nesting thing in terms of, okay, so card styling, card. There might be a missing div for something that needs to close. Okay, after line 49, I think you need another closing div there.
So the same as this one?
Yeah, yeah.
So
I think there might have been some extra characters there. There we go.
oh, there we go.
Yay!
Yay. Okay, that's better. All right, thank you. Sorry about that.
No problem. Yep. Any other questions there? Okay, so awesome. Okay, any other questions? Is anybody feeling daring and want to show off their page?
This is Frank. I'm on Rachel's screen because my mic doesn't work.
Oh, okay,
We're sharing a desk.
cool.
We were both curious if, if say Unsplash or Bootstrap websites got like updated or the photos got deleted, would that break the website, or do you have to like check in every so often to make sure it still works?
That is a perfect question. Yes. And so the thing about these large websites is like something like Bootstrap, where they know that a lot of people are consuming their libraries. They try to build it in a way that is backwards compatible, meaning if they make updates, it should not reflect what is already being consumed by people who are using it. So the hope is that they would build it that way. And so far, they've done a pretty good job at it. Not all library maintainers will do this. Sometimes they will break things and they'll say, hey, in order to make our library better, you're just going to have to make these changes on your end to make sure that things are fixed, so or up to date. I will say, for the most part, when you consume libraries, yes, they shouldn't break if updates are made. And usually they use version, like semantic versioning. You might actually even be able to look at that. So I'll go ahead and share my screen again. So when we were consuming this Bootstrap library, you'll notice it has 4.5.3. You guys all see that? That's actually an indicator of the version of that library. And so these versions are sort of a way that we use to indicate if things will break on our end. Usually if it's like a very major version. So if they did that, that is actually an indicator that you will need to likely make changes on your end to consume the latest version. But there's like a minor version. Actually, this is a minor version. If there are just smaller updates that won't break your website, likely it'll be smaller version there. So great question.
Thanks.
Any other other questions there? Nobody wants to share their website. I'm curious to see what you guys made. All right. Okay. So Sarah or TJ, is there anything else we need to cover here?
Totally, yeah. So we're kind of on the tail end of, well, we are at the tail end of this fun workshop. So thank you, Mina, for leading it with us. So kind of what we'll do now is just kind of go over the next steps, because we do have some more resources available coming up to kind of take your skills beyond what we're doing now. So I'm putting a link in your chat that we have another meetup coming up on December 9th called Understanding Developer Tools. So what we're going to do is we're going to dive into kind of what Mina was doing a little bit with the inspector and the console log, and kind of taking that to the next level a little bit more. And then December 16th, I believe, the weekend, December 18th through the 20th, we have what's called Jumpstart coming up, and Sarah and our instruction staff lead that. So it's a 3-day event, and it takes place Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and that's even taking your skills to the next level. So we'll build a website from the ground up using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Right now, we've just been using HTML and CSS, so JavaScript kind of takes your page and creates action to it. I'm sure Mina could give a little bit more description to what JavaScript does on a web page than I could. And that link is in the website there. Yeah, so check it out. We hope to see you all there. Cool. So we are recording this. I'm going to put the link. I'm going to send out information on how to get the recording on Monday, and you'll be able to go along and use this and kind of, beef it up some more. Kind of the next steps is just taking this website that you've already built and start adding some more. Yeah, Mina, maybe do you want to touch on, like, how do you take this website that they've kind of built to the next step in between now and December 9th when our next meetup is?
Yeah, so I would highly encourage looking through W3 Schools and seeing what other elements that you could use, what other CSS attributes that you could use. I feel like when I was learning how to develop websites, Codecademy was actually a really good resource for understanding how to taking it to the next level of using JavaScript if you wanted like some kind of precursor to things that could be covered in Jumpstart. Yeah, I would generally reference W3 Schools to really get an idea of all the things that you could do with HTML and CSS. Yeah. I did want to add, TJ was sort of referencing this, JavaScript, it is a very powerful language. There is a lot to it. And it's also very fun to learn. There's a lot of resources online to do that. Again, Codecademy is one of the ways that I self-taught before I went to Jumpstart myself and learned more about it. It is the language that will allow you to have more interaction and more dynamic behaviors on your website. So, yeah. And I also want to put it out there that feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I took my website down because it's in the process of being revamped. So unfortunately, I don't have that resource for you. But I'm accessible through LinkedIn, and I'm very happy to answer any questions you might have in terms of what you want to do next with your website. I could provide resources there too.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for leading us today, Mina, and thank you all for joining us. It's been a great time. So we hope to see you at our next events. And yeah, if you have any other questions, just please post it in the meetup group. Other than that, have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you later. Goodbye.